This podcast contains strong language.
Hello and welcome to What Lingers. This is the podcast from the people behind Storytelling Lisboa, where we uncover the questions behind people's stories.
I'm Cristian Figueroa.
And I'm Liz Melchor.
And we are the team behind Storytelling Lisboa, where once a month, 10 storytellers get on stage in front of 200 people and tell true and personal stories related to a theme.
We don't produce anyone. We encourage newcomers. The night is free for all. We want an inclusive stage dedicated to fostering community, sharing the human experience.
And we just love it. But, honey, there is a problem. We always have lingering questions for the storytellers and no format to ask them. Until now.
What Lingers is a chance to dive back in, inviting storytellers to retell their stories and stay for a conversation in front of a smaller live audience at LX Brewery in the heart of Lisbon.
Oh my God, Liz, we made it. We're here with the first episode of What Lingers, and we are ready to start this season with an uniquely Lisbon story.
And what better way to start? I am super excited, but I do think that before we give it over to the storyteller, we need to give a little bit of context to people at home and tell them about Lisbon and about Lisbon now.
Absolutely. Lisbon is so trendy right now. Tons of foreigners are moving here. For example, myself, I moved here in 2019, and well, we have so many changes since then.
Yeah, I mean, I came here in December 2018 from California, and there are tons of other foreigners from all around the world that have come here, and it makes the city energy just kind of magnetic and vibrant, but there are negative consequences to this too, like rent prices.
Yeah, it feels a little bit bittersweet because we're having this gentrification out of control, and Airbnb is just wild as well. But also we're getting the nice things of having like a multicultural and international place in such a small city.
Definitely. And just to give like sort of more context to how unaffordable Lisbon is becoming, if you want to rent a small apartment in the center of Lisbon, it's going to cost more than an average Portuguese monthly salary.
Yeah, things are getting really tough here.
But let's give it over to the storyteller so she can tell us more.
Such a great idea, Liz. Let's get into it. In this episode, we are hearing from Sandy on the theme Gossip, someone who grew up in Canada and has Portuguese roots.
She's come back to the country of her parents and sees Lisbon from both sides. A reminder that we recorded this in a legit brewery, and so you may hear a bit of background brewing. Enjoy this episode of What Lingers.
Hello, my name is Sandy. On Saturday mornings, I love to walk around Lisbon, and I go to the cafes, the pastelarias, because I love to hear the gossip from the old ladies, the velhinhas. My parents are Portuguese, so I grew up hearing it a lot, so I know what they're saying in the cafes. Whoa, I just forgot what I was going to say. I just remembered. Okay. The velhinhas, fofocas, gossip. Okay. Last October, I moved into a place here in Lisbon that you probably know called Praça das Flores. Praça das Flores. It's better. Anyone know Praça das Flores?
Yeah.
Now you're gonna know more. I moved into a really great apartment, and below the apartment was a bar. There is a bar. And my friend worked there. And one day I'm walking home and I go into the bar and I'm like, hey man, he's like, hey, they're talking about you. I said, who? He said, the old ladies. I said, what'd they say? He said, they want to know how much you pay in rent. I said, did you tell them? He said, no. I said, okay. So I go upstairs and I call my mom. I call my mom about a lot of things. And I said, Mom, you're never going to believe this. The Lingers are talking about me. She says, what are they saying? I said, they want to know how much I pay in rent. She says, did you tell them? I said, no. They asked my friend. She says, did he tell them? I said, no. She goes, I don't believe him. A couple weeks later, I am going to Lounge. You know Lounge here in Lisbon? I like to go there by myself sometimes, and I go dance. No, it's a great club. I recommend it. I go dance by myself. So one night I went dancing alone, and I was walking home to Praça das Flores, and I hear this yelling behind me, and this guy's like, hey, hey, you. And I was like, you talking to me? He didn't answer. And then he started following me. So I turned around, and I was like, are you following me? He didn't answer. So I kept walking, annoyed, and a little scared, but mostly annoyed. And this other guy comes up, and he goes, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. I said, was that you talking to me? And he goes, it wasn't me. I said, okay. So we're walking in the same direction. And he goes, where are you going? I said, Praça das Flores. She goes, me too. I live there. I said, me too. I said, where are you from? It's what we all ask each other, right? Where are you from? How much you paying rent? And he was from Ottawa. I'm from Toronto originally. That's not far. Yeah, okay. So we're walking, and we're walking along, and we're chatting. And I was like, I live here. And he goes, I live here, right across the street from me. This guy's name's Steve. If you know Steve, please don't mention it to me. So a few weeks go by. I don't see Steve again. I don't hear from Steve. And I'm at a party a few weeks later with a friend of mine. And I see another friend of mine, Patrick. Hey, Patrick, what are you doing? Lisbon's very small. I'm sure you all know that by now. So Patrick says, let me walk you home. I said, okay. So we're walking through Praça das Flores, and there's a party going on. So we walk into the party, and who's there? Steve. I'm like, hey, man, how's it going? He's like, how's it going? I said, great. He says, do you know your neighbor here? And I said, yeah, I do know my neighbor. She is the woman who has a shop below me. There's a bar, there's a shop. I won't say what shop it is. Anyway, so we're chatting about a lot of things, and she's also about to learn what I pay in rent because she asks me. And then she says to me, can I ask you something about your apartment? I said, sure. She goes, how do you feel up there? I said, I think I feel fine. But the truth is I don't feel fine. The truth is that for a little while I've been feeling a little funny upstairs in my apartment in Praça das Flores. She says to me, do you know what happened up there? I said, I don't. Why don't you tell me? Most people would walk away at this point, but I want to know. And she says, my friend died up there. What? Yeah. And again, most people would just walk away and leave it at that. But I go, how? And she goes, he killed himself up there. And I said, I wish you didn't tell me that. I pay a lot of rent. A few weeks later, I'm leaving that apartment for a lot of reasons. Not the least of which have to do with what I've just found out. It does weigh on me. So I go to my manicurist, and I haven't really told anybody about this. Absolutely have not told my mom. And I'm like, I gotta let this out. So I tell my manicurist, who also works in Praça das Flores. And I said, did you know that there's this guy that killed himself in my apartment? And she says, Sandy, everybody knows that. So, and then I also told her how much I pay in rent, but anyway, that's Praça das Flores. I went home later and I did tell my mom everything. Before I told this story, I told the story a couple months ago. I did not know what I was going to talk about. And I had called my mom, like grown women do. And I said, Mom, I don't know what I'm going to talk about at this storytelling night. I have a lot of things that I want to say. It's about gossip. What do I do? And she says, Sandy, just tell them what you pay in rent. I'm going to blend another story that I told, which is also about gossip, and it's a little bit of gossip about me. So my mom tends to appear in a lot of my stories, as does Lisbon. These are two huge influences in my life, and I don't think either one of them know. Not my mom and not Lisbon. When I was a kid, I was left-handed. And my mom is Assyrian, from Assur. She's from an island called São Jorge. Her mother, my grandmother, is from São Miguel, an area called Chavdepeix. Maybe you know about it. Yeah, nod your head because it's gonna matter. So, I was left-handed when I was a kid, and because of where my mom is from and how she grew up, it was cursed to be left-handed. So she didn't want me to be left-handed. So she encouraged me, and I won't say how, but she encouraged me to be right-handed. And today I'm a very proudly right-handed and fully healthy, okay? But let's just say a mother's intuition kind of plays into it. My mother did not want a left-handed life for me. In March 2022, after lockdown, we'd all been sort of cooped up, let's say, for a couple of years. I think you remember it. The first thing that I did when I could was I got on a plane and I came back to Lisbon because I missed it so much. I'll never forget, I paid $296 round trip, tax in, to get to Lisbon from Toronto. Wild, that would never happen now. So I arrived in Lisbon and I was really happy, but I was frustrated because I was trying to move here and I couldn't figure out how to do it. You know, a lot of stuff stood in my way. I'm sure if you live in Lisbon, you've all had your struggles to get here too, and here we are. So anyway, I'm walking down the street one day. I'd been in Lisbon for a few days. I went through food poisoning. I was getting over a heartbreak. Someone in Toronto had broken my heart. He was a bartender, so I went to this like great bar by myself, and I had a cocktail, but I got food poisoning from it. No, I will not tell you what bar it was. Gossip, ask me later. Anyway, so I went for a walk, and I had been talking to my mom again on the phone, and I was like, I'm frustrated because this. I'm lonely. I have people in my life. We have family in Lisbon. I have friends in Lisbon, but I feel lonely. She says, hang in there. What you want will eventually come to you. I said, great. Hung up the phone, started taking a walk. And I walked down a street, Green Street. Maybe you've heard of it. And it was a mistake. I didn't mean to walk down that street. I didn't really know much about that street. All the years I've been coming to Lisbon, I didn't give a shit about Green Street. So I walked down there, and I had walked by a stranger. So we're all strangers here tonight, most of us. Strangers are a big part of my life as well. I write for a living. Strangers inspire a lot of what I do. So I was walking down Green Street, and I walked by a stranger, a very handsome stranger, and we make eye contact. And I walk by, and he says, hello. I said, hello. And I keep walking. And then I hear a chair scraping, on the cobblestones from behind me. And I turn around, and he has stood up. And he says, do you want to have a coffee with me? But he's Portuguese, so he said, do you want to take a coffee with me? And I said, no. And I kept walking. And then he goes, are you sure? That's bold. You don't get that very often, right? How often do guys do that? I don't know. So he says, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm sure, but now I'm intrigued. He said, please sit down with me. And I said, no. He said, are you sure? I said, okay, I'll sit down with you. So I sat down. So I sat across from this stranger, and we talked for a long time. And for the next 18 days, we fell in love. We did not leave each other's side. We took his little white Mercedes all around Lisbon. I drove up and down 7 hills. It was incredible. But I didn't know anything about this guy, really. I thought I did. What I didn't know was that he had a little problem. He was an addict, quite severe. But we did fall in love, and he did things like take me to see my dad, who lives in Portugal, who I hadn't seen in years. Took me around to meet people, showed me a really good time. After 2 years in lockdown, we were all a little thirsty for connection, So we fought and made love in equal amounts. It was exhilarating and exhausting. By the end of those 18 days, I had to go back to Toronto. And I'm at the airport, he's dropping me off, and it was really painful. I hadn't felt anything like that in a really long time. And I got on the plane and I thought to myself, was that a mistake? Did I just leave the love of my life behind? We kept in touch when I went back to Toronto, but eventually we broke up. The addiction was too much. But we really loved each other, so he said, come back. And I did. So I came back that year, but by the time I got back, he'd fallen in love with someone else. That was painful. So I went home. But we kept in touch, and he said, come back. I said, okay. And by the time I got back, he'd fucking fall in love with someone else again. Did I mention he's Portuguese? You got that. Thank you so much. People are people, whatever. But anyway, this man was very controversial in my life. And I won't say too much more, but it is quite a bit of gossip for me in my circles. And I finally left this time last year. Everything had fallen apart. It went really badly. I went back to Toronto. For many reasons, I was a little broken. I'm not ashamed to say that. It's a little gossip, but I was a little broken. And I remember telling my mom about the whole thing, and she knew what the guy's name was, and I will not repeat it tonight. Not the first name, anyway. She knew, and she goes, no. Tell me his name. What's his last name? And I told her. I said, it's Canhoto. And she says, I knew it. I said, what? Now remember, I'm still learning my Portuguese. She says, Canhoto. I said, what does it mean? She goes, left-handed. So I think sometimes, this is what I've learned, and my mom is a big part of this. I don't think mothers always know what's best for you, but sometimes they know what's not. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sandy, thank you so much for being here. That was amazing. And, well, we know you from the stage, but could you quickly introduce yourself for the people here in the audience and also people listening at home?
Sure. So my name is Sandy. I'm a writer. I like to tell stories. I usually write essays. I work in tech, but I write essays as well. I publish in magazines. And I started Storytelling Lisbon because I don't do this well. I enjoy it, but I wanted to get good at telling stories in front of an audience. It's very different. So yeah, that's it. I'm Sandy, I'm a writer. I make mistakes and I know a lot of gossip about Lisbon.
Okay, so that reminds me, because I have a lot of questions about a lot of things, but the first, I need to know like everything that happened with the guy, but you talked about like mistakes, and you talked about like getting on stage and telling stories and sort of telling them imperfectly. Mm-hmm. And the first time we had a conversation like a while ago, and it was after the first time you got on stage, and you told me, you said, I got on stage, it didn't go at all how I wanted, I didn't like how it was, but I loved it. Yeah. And that has always stuck with me, that you were able to get on the stage and like do this very scary thing, have it go badly, according to you, or feel like it went badly, right, but then be sort of brave enough to get up on the stage again. I think it was only a few months later that you got up again and tried again, and I'm wondering about that.
Thanks. I remember that conversation, and so what I had done was that was the Love Night, was my first one, and then I told a story on stage that I had remembered because it was an essay that I had published, and I thought, well, it's a pretty decent story, I think, it's not bad, it's structured and shit, you know what I mean? But when you get on stage and you recite, that's what you're doing, you're reciting, so you have to rely, I'm learning, you have to rely on knowing that it happened to you, it's your story. Like, I messed up there at the beginning, it doesn't really matter because I knew the story, I just needed to drop into it again. But yeah, not doing something well, it shouldn't stop you from trying it again, that's the idea, is to, because if I did it really perfectly the first time, maybe I wouldn't have did it again. But because I didn't do it well, I was like, I'm gonna do it again. Yeah.
But for some people it's the opposite, right? It's like
right.
they do it and they have an expectation, and if it doesn't go well, then they retreat forever. And so I do think it's a certain thing to like be that person that gets up again.
Thank you. It's because my mom's a Saurian. I don't know. My dad's from Melchor, which means nothing. And I'm from Toronto. So.
Everyone is wondering, how much do you pay in rent? I'm kidding. You don't have to answer that seriously. I recently moved as well, and I think your story touched me in the sense of, how was your reaction? How do you felt, or your thoughts around the fact that your landlord seemed really happy to ignore this huge part of information of your apartment? Yeah. And I don't know, you found out from other people?
Yeah.
Did you talk to him? Did you confront him?
No.
I mean, you mentioned something that you were already living this place, but what was the internal emotions going on?
I just thought, I've been walking around the, Praça das Flores for like 6 months, and everybody knows where I live but me. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't annoyed. I was more like what annoyed me was that my neighbor told me what my landlord paid in rent, because I was subleasing, and I was more irritated that I was paying way more than he was. But It was really heavy, and I thought, so when I went up to the apartment after the party that night, my apartment looked totally different to me, and I couldn't unsee what I knew. So, yeah, but that's gossip, but that everybody knew. And since that, like from the storytelling night, people have approached me after and been like, I knew that about Portuguese Flores. I'm like, get out of here. And now you all know too, like you're welcome. Like the next time you're having a beer on the benches, now you'll know what's up.
Actually, I'm really happy that we have you here because this is our first episode and we are based in Lisbon. And your mom is Portuguese, you have like this old Portuguese heritage, and you came with this story full of landmarks like the Lingers and Plaza das Flores. I mean, for the audience or people listening at home or living in other countries, how could you describe Plaza das Flores to someone who never lived in Lisbon?
I think it's, well, I don't live there now. Like I have moved out. I'm not going to share where I live now because I'm collecting gossip from there. No, I'm not. I'm actually, I live in an area where there's like 2 Lingers on my street, which I love. And I had to work them for like weeks. Bon dia, bon dia. And now they're like, bon dia. So that's enough, you know? Now there's like anonymity, which I love, but Portuguese Flores was great. It was a nice community. I realized that I prefer a little more anonymity, but it's a really beautiful place. When I would tell people where I lived, everybody knew where it was. So people would come meet you, you have a date, meet me in the plaza, they know what's up, like it's good, you know? So, but that's Lisbon. I've been coming here for 21 years. Like I moved here officially in October, but I started coming when I was in my early 20s, and I've watched Lisbon evolve, like a lot of people that are from here, right? Or maybe you've been in love with it for a long time like me. So it's different. It was an idea when I would travel between Toronto and Lisbon, and now I live here. So it's like moving in with a lover. It's totally different. It's a different perspective, you know what I mean? So everyone's like, you're living the dream. Am I? Like, do you want to come?
Okay, so I'm really interested by something that you just said, which is like you moved and now you have a bit more anonymity, and that you're into that. Because I'm actually like, I'm your opposite, whereas like I crave and love neighborhood gossip.
Right.
And I used to live in San Francisco. I lived there for 12 years, same neighborhood, same house, and I had a really cute dog, and like I literally knew the stories of everybody in my neighborhood, and they knew my stories, and a lot of my day was just like chit-chatting with like all the people. And when I moved, and I think that's one of the things when you move to a new country where your language skills aren't, you know, so my language skills are, you know, a bit mediocre, to be honest, in Portuguese. I can't like get down with the gossip. I can't overhear it and really know it. And so I'm interested by that, like by your relationship to gossip, by your wanting a little bit more anonymity, but you still want it. Like you still want to go.
I love it. When I walk into the cafes and like I know what the ladies are saying and who they're it's nothing serious. Like they're gossiping about family, you know what I mean? Or like other neighbors. So it does happen, but it's how they're receiving community. It's how they're understanding each other, keeping an eye. Like, you know, I think there is also a negative connotation, even coming from North America, there's a negative connotation to gossip, and then you get to a place where people use it as a method of community. As long as no one gets hurt, like who cares?
Yeah, like
you know what I mean?
It's a positive thing, I guess. It's like it's like storytelling is almost like the grand, you know, gesture gossip. It's like we stand on stage and just like listen. It's like I'm super curious about people, and so that's why I like it. But and I miss it so much, and I can't
connect to it.
I can't connect to it again, and that's a loss for me. And you know, a note to like work harder on my Portuguese.
Or just take a Portuguese friend with you to like tune into the Lingers, because like, but it makes me feel connected. I miss my family. I don't miss Toronto. I miss the people in it, right? And so, but I also love being here because it feels more rooted for me. So to walk in and know what they're talking about, but they don't know that I know what they're talking about, which is, that's the vibe. Like that's the in, is that they don't know. Because I walk in and, you know, I'm a strange person. I'm just a foreigner.
Well, and I guess that's the thing, right? Because you grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
And to Portuguese parents, and now you're living in Portugal, but you also feel Canadian. And so what's that like to be sort of between the worlds?
It's kind of cool. Like everyone wants to identify with something. I think everybody wants to belong somewhere into something. So I do have a bit of an in because it's a culture that I'm familiar with, but I wasn't born here. So I'm a Portuguese foreigner. You know what I mean? So I go between both sides, and I can sympathize with both sides, but I do feel like it's a magic power. Like it feels like a little superpower to understand what's going on, you know? But also, like, I can walk upstairs, and the Lingers would also gossip, like, downstairs in my building. Love. I didn't mention this, but I'm like an aspiring Velinga. I want nothing more. Nothing more. Like, I don't need to have the gossip be about me, but I can know what's up. Oh my God, they're legends. Like,
Wait, but actually, what are they saying to each other?
they're usually talking, I mean, it depends on the cafe, but okay, everyone's talking about rent. Okay, everybody. So that's one. They'll talk about who's dating who, whose daughter is like doing something wrong. I mean, this is Portugal, you know, so, and I don't say that rudely, like it's just true. I mean, you know, people are hard on their daughters, so all the Portuguese people are like, yeah. But it was also fun to go upstairs and be like, oh my God, mom, listen. I would call her and be like, listen. And she was proud because I understood. And also she's like, they're talking about you. So, you know, worse than people talking about you is people not, right? Oscar Wilde says it way better, but that's the quote. So I think it's true. But anyway, yeah, it's made me feel connected. What?
A little controversial, I would say. But yeah, I mean, that's the way you get famous. Right.
I mean, it's people are interested in what you're doing, but at the end of the day, they're not. That's gossip too. Nobody gives a shit when they go home. They're not thinking about you, you know. But even when you're thinking about gossip and things like that, I learned this with you guys. Is so you're supposed to write from the scar, not the wound. And I mentioned before when I told the mistakes, like the one telling about that guy. I mean, it was really tremendous, like what happened between us. It was like, it was hard, you know? And that was a scab and it picked it. And I was like, but if I'm telling the story, it's not therapy. I've processed it. And I think that's a really nice thing to do. Like when you're getting on stage, you're writing a story, you're talking about shit that you've processed. It's over. It's just a story to you. It's so relieving. So to turn my own gossip into a story has been very like, I don't know, empowering, you know?
And does it change your relationship to the story then to get on a stage and tell it in front of a huge audience?
Just takes the weight out of it a little bit, you know what I mean? Like turning down the wrong street and making a mistake and meeting a stranger that completely changed the course of my life. But I ended up here anyway. Like I went back to Toronto a bunch of times and came back and I ended up here anyway, which is really great. And I haven't seen him. When Lisbon's small. That's wild.
No, that's weird, actually.
Yeah. But if I do, I'll tell another story about it. Maybe, I don't know.
You're walking down the street.
Yeah.
You catch eyes with the hot guy.
Yeah.
And then the hot guy does the thing that you like want to happen, right? Like he comes up and asks you to have a coffee. He pursues.
People don't pursue anymore, right?
Okay, so the question is, why did you say no?
Because I wanted to say yes, I think. Like, you know, I don't know.
You were playing difficult, hard,
I don't know. I guess I was just like, no, because he was so sure of himself. But the first time I told the story, I mentioned what he looked like a little bit, and he was tall. Okay. So yeah, you can live in dualities. You know, you can like completely, you know, hate someone and still think that they're hot, right? So he was really tall. He had like dark hair to here. He had like a scruffy beard. He had a collared shirt with a sweater, and he had like the kind of tight slacks. And he in those pointy fucking European shoes. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm talking about. It's a look.
I'm pretty sure he has coffee at neighborhoods. The typical hipsters and neighborhood.
Okay, but for the audience out there, you have to explain what neighborhood is.
Oh my God, now I'm in trouble. Because I just been once. I mean, I have to say, I'm from Colombia, I'm an immigrant, I wouldn't put the word expat in my curriculum ever. So I have a difficult relationship with Plaza das Flores, and all that is happening in Lisbon, this is gonna get personal and shitty. So I had a friend who worked at coffee places, and she took me once to Neighborhood, which is a nice coffee place. It's a specialty coffee place, is that they call it? People who know from coffee. And yeah, it's just, you know, where the Americano takes like €5, and it's like, I cannot afford a €5 Americano.
And tell people what a normal Americano price is in like in a pasteleria.
I don't know if you go to.
I don't pay more than like $1.80 for a galon. I'm sorry, if you're above 2, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
But
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I'm with you.
So when you describe like the long hair, I mean, I have long hair. And the mustache, and, you know, the cool kids, they're having the Americano.
So he was Portuguese. That's the other thing too. That's what intrigued me, right? Because I'm coming back to Lisbon, and I'm trying to move here, and I'm also trying to identify with my roots. So what hooked me, I'll be really honest, was I want to, like, if I go on a date with a Portuguese guy, I'm sitting down, I'm like, why are we the way we are? Like, why don't you tell me about Portuguese people? I want to learn. So that intrigued me too, because there was familiarity there. Tell me about Portugal. Tell me about Lisbon from your perspective. That hooked me, man. Like the way he's like, you want to take a coffee with me? I was dead. Like, are you kidding? I didn't stand a chance on the pointy shoes over. Like, so it's foreign to me. It's foreign to me. You know, that's why I sat down and I was like, no, but I was intuition too. No, I made a mistake. When your gut says no, walk away. When your mother says, left is bad, left is bad. You know what I mean?
Maybe I start asking people for coffees. I don't know.
I like it. I think it's great.
People don't pursue in dating. So when a man is like that persistent and that level of confidence, you know, we're all like on apps trying to meet people blessed. Like it's fine, it's great. But it's very organic, and it was after lockdown. We were thirsty, man. Like somebody going, you sure you don't want to sit down? I'm like, maybe I do. You know?
Charming. I think it's like you're so used to online dating and stuff, and then when anything happens in real life, it's like this, like, whoa, what do I do? You're like, I don't know.
We had no masks anymore. I was like, breathe on me, you know? It was so good.
Oh my God, yeah, things are getting hot. Honey.
Okay, we could keep talking to you forever, but there's a whole audience that's right here in front of us. And I think that they have some questions for you.
Hi. So I'm still lingering on you leaving the flat in Praças Flores, partly because somebody's killed himself there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm stuck on that.
I
That's
know.
where
I
I'm
was
at.
stuck with
I'm
it
done
too.
with the
Yeah.
party. What I'd like to know is the following flat, did you actually go and ask what the history of the flat was?
Oh my God, I have a little story for you.
Thank you. I was hoping for
So in 2015, I came to Lisbon with my sister's boyfriend, and a cousin, and we rented an Airbnb. And I remember sitting in the Airbnb and going like, fuck, wouldn't it be really cool if I lived in Lisbon, like in a flat like this? So a couple years later, my sister returned to that flat, that Airbnb, with my mom, my sister's boyfriend and my sister. I didn't go on that trip. When I was looking to move out, the impetus wasn't just what happened in the flat. I was already on my way out, but this sort of like, you know, did it. I walked into this flat. My friend was like, hey, a friend of mine just moved out. Do you want to see this flat? I walk into this flat and I'm like, I've been here before. So I now live in what was my Airbnb in 2015 when I was like, wouldn't it be so cool if I lived in a flat, like if I had my life here? Yeah, my heart is pounding because I keep forgetting that, but so I live in and my mom has been in my flat, so even before she came to see me, she came back to a flat and stayed in a room where, I don't know, it was just wild. So I feel very unlucky, right? That's wild! But yeah. Nobody died in there. Not that I'm aware of. No. But I do know, I mean, yeah, like my sister and I have had like a fight in there like years ago. That's the worst of it. But yeah, I live in my Airbnb.
Hey.
Hi.
So nowadays, how do you react when you find out a guy you're interested in is left-handed?
I call my mom.
Brazilians in the room, we're gonna love this question.
Okay.
Can I ask your star sign? Because I feel like we're sisters. Are we? You're a water sign for sure.
I am not. I don't think, no, I'm not.
You're rising, do you know your chart?
I do. Yeah, I do. That sounds fun. I'm a Leo.
You're Leo?
Yeah, I'm a Leo, and I'm a Sagittarius is my rising, I think.
Okay, and your moon?
I feel like there might be some water in there. I don't know. I think. Yeah, is that what they do? Do they fall in love really deep? Like water people?
I mean, water is emotion. We're emotional.
My question is more about the process, not so much about the content. When I'm writing a story, it's not always easy for me to decipher what is really salient here, like what is really the nuggets and what is sort of a tangent. So could you share a little bit in your process? Because I feel like if it goes too many tangents, it loses meat.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Thank you so much. Because I write, this is writing, but it's not. This is like performance, and it's talking to people, like looking in the eye. So because we were given topics, so it helps us start with a topic. We're given topics. The one was gossip. That stuck out to me. So when I want to tell a story about a topic, it's very instinctual that I have something to say. So what is a tangent? Like I write for the pleasure of it. So let's say that I'm writing. When I'm telling a story on stage, I try not to overwrite it because I've done that. I've literally recited an essay. Then I've gotten on stage before I call my mom and I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. Should I talk about rant? I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but I lived those things. And so that was very different. And then maybe there's something in between where tonight, I think I kind of figured out a formula. I'm repeating, but I just made some notes and I made specific like stuff that I want to hit, you know? Pausing is very helpful as well. Do you mean like writing or telling a story on stage? Because they're different things now. I'm learning.
More the latter.
Telling a story on stage.
Writing a story that's going to be told as a performance piece.
Make notes. Something that you would tell like in a group of people at a dinner party. You know, something that you would feel, and something that you've told repeatedly.
Actually, I have a question about content as well.
Okay.
You were talking about being a writer as well as a storyteller.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you gravitate to writing first within the context of telling. Have you ever just talked and played with it out loud and then found that would improve the writing as well as the telling?
Like telling a story.
You could tell it to 5 or 6 friends. You could play
All the
with
time.
ideas out loud, and then
Yeah, thanks. All the time. All the time. Like I love to listen to stories as well. You know, like tonight I'm doing a lot of talking, but I love listening to people. Strangers have been a huge part of my life. Like for better or worse, now you hear like the shitty side of it. But I've met the most incredible strangers as well. So yeah, I will tell a story just to people and like start it. And then maybe I'll go home and write about it a little more. I don't know, I'm still developing my whole relationship to everything, but I'm a writer first. And storytelling is very new to me. And I just, you know, I'm learning as I go. But this is fun, this is different. This is connecting with people. And also it's sharing stuff that's been in your, you know, in your mind or that you're ashamed of. Like for a long time, I was ashamed of what happened to me in Lisbon with this guy. I was ashamed. There's a whole backstory to it. And so I remember when we were going through all this, I don't know, for better or worse, he was like, someday you're gonna tell a story about this. He's being a bit of an egotistical whatever, but it doesn't matter, he wasn't wrong. Here I am, you know? So it feels like I'm claiming it again. This is my version of things, the right version. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So thank you, Sandy, so much for coming on stage, for telling your story, and for sharing everything with us and with the whole audience and the people at home.
Yeah, it was amazing. We just have 2 final questions before we let you go. It's not about rent, don't worry. What is one thing about you that no one ever expects?
A lot of people don't expect that I understand Portuguese, you know? So, and that's worked in my favor a lot when someone says like rude shit, and I'm like, percebe tudo. Diz.
Okay, and last question, and then we're gonna let you go. What is your biggest takeaway from sharing your story?
Oh, never be ashamed of your own story. That's it.
Own it.
Own it. You change it anytime.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, everyone.
That's it for this episode of What Lingers. Thanks so much to Gonzalo and his team at LX Brewery for hosting us.
Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And also follow us on Instagram at Storytelling Lisboa to keep up to date.
What Lingers is a podcast from the team behind Storytelling Lisboa.
It's produced by Jonny Bunyan. Thank you so much for listening, and join us again for another edition of What Lingers.
See you next week.